when you're solving an equation for a specific variable, all that means is you're trying to rearrange your equation to get that variable, in this case a, all by itself on one side. You want to have an equation of the form a equals whatever. And, if this equation was 10 equals 2 times a, it's maybe clearer how you do that, right? We would divide by 2 and we'd get a number. And here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to undo each step using inverse operations. It's just that we don't have a number value. We're going to have essentially an equation or a formula at the end that a is equal to instead of just a value. So let's jump in here. We have f equals m times a. To get a by itself, I need to get rid of this times m. So I'm going to use the inverse operation. I'm going to divide by m on both sides of my equation. Those m's cancel, and I have just a here. And on this side, I have f divided by m. And I don't know what f is. I don't know what m is. So I just am going to leave it f divided by m. There's no simpler way to say it. And we're done. You can flip this if it is important to you to have a on the left side, but we're done. That's the equation. A equals f divided by m. If we're solving for m, we're trying to get this m all by itself, so we need to get rid of this times a. So I'm going to divide by a on both sides of my equation. I've got f divided by a, and over here, I just have m. I'm done. It's not so bad. On this one, I'm trying to get q all by itself, and I have I equals q divided by t. Don't forget that line in a fraction means divide. So to get rid of divide by t, I'm going to multiply by t on both sides of my equation. T times I equals q. I'm done. So nice. Here I'm solving for t, and t is in the denominator. That's a bit of a pain for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is get t out of the denominator by multiplying by t on both sides, just like I did earlier when I was solving for q. So t times I equals q, and now I want t by itself, so I'm going to get rid of this times I by dividing by I on both sides. T equals q divided by I. We're done. Now listen, some people, for their first step, try to divide by q. You can do that. The thing is, you have to be careful. You have I divided by q over here, but over here you have something over t. And this something, if you remember that this is really one q, when the q's cancel, it just leaves you with that 1. It's the multiplication version of nothing, right, is 1. So this is not done yet. It's not in t equals form. And I do notice that people forget that 1 a lot. So that's why I start with getting it out of the denominator. It's not necessary. There's always multiple ways to solve it. But I think this is easier because you don't have to worry about this denominator. If your equation's getting more complicated, we just have more steps. It doesn't actually make it much harder. We want to get rid of this plus 3 and this times 2. I'm going to get rid of the plus 3 first, just to make my life easier. And now I'm going to get rid of the times 2 by dividing by 2. Careful, you have to divide everything by 2, so that you could write it like this. Or you could also write it as y divided by 2 minus 3 divided by 2. Now, some people for their first step might have wanted to divide by 2. You can do that, but be careful. You have to divide everything by 2. And people have a tendency to forget this one. So it's totally fine to divide first and then subtract this fraction over to the other side. You'll notice now we've ended up with the same as this. Just use caution. That's why I like to divide last. I like to get rid of my adding and subtracting first and then divide last if I can, so that I don't accidentally forget to divide any of the parts.